David, they can't hear me.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, Martha.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Are the other directors having a problem logging in? Do we know? Oh, there's Director. Good. Looking for Director Joseph.
Yeah, I clicked on the wrong link. I'm here. Okay, bye.
All right, we have all directors present.
All right.
We'll call the meeting to order for the American County Fire Protection District for October 2nd. I'm sorry, October 3rd, 2022. This is the open session part. Can we have the flag, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'm sorry, I don't have that ready. I had to change. I'm sorry, I don't have it ready.
Sorry, I can't hear that response. We do not have a flag to raise. Well, each one of them has us in our virtual background, so why don't we take care of it that way? Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you all. Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph?
Here.
Board Member Oro?
Here.
Board Member Washington,
Here.
Vice Chair Abodamos,
Here.
Chair Garcia.
Here, thank you. Moving on in our agenda, report on closed session confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross?
Mr. Chairman, board members, you convened in open at 5 p.m. to address the matters in closed session, which occurred immediately after convening in open. With respect to the first matter, there is reportable action, but it'll be affected in your action on open business item number 3. With respect to the second item, there is no reportable action under the common law attorney-client privilege, and that provided by Government Code Section 54956.9 D2. Completed closed session at 5:26. That would complete the report unless there are questions.
Any questions for Mr. Ross? Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll move on in our agenda. Proclamation and presentations. There are none this evening. Public comment? Any public comment on the items not on the agenda?
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then. Agenda changes. Any agenda changes, directors? If not, we have a consent calendar. We have no consent calendar this evening. We have no request for change on the agenda. Then we'll move on to our agenda, and no public hearing this evening, but we do have a business item. Resolution determining the disability retirement of Fire Captain Paramedic Joshua Cordero, a district safety employee covered by contract with California Public Employees Retirement System. Chief Bellier, Mr. Ross.
I'll take this, consistent with what the staff report indicates. The district is in receipt of an application from Captain Cordero for a disability retirement in the form of a completed application to CalPERS. That is supported by substantial medical evidence in the form of a physician's conclusion, which has been discussed in closed session, but indicates that the applicant for the disability is no longer fit to perform the duties of a firefighter. Based on that recommendation, the resolution confirming the disability is before you. That would be the staff recommendation. As indicated in the staff report, the currently existing application for workers' compensation benefits would be extinguished by your adoption of this resolution. I would conclude the staff report unless there are questions.
Any questions from the directors? Very good. Well, this is a business item. This seems very clear cut to me, and I think probably the directors as well. Is there any public comment on this item?
No, Chair.
Thank you. I'll close public comment on this. We'll return to the board for further discussion, desired action.
If there's no other comment, I'll be happy to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2022-18. Resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon sitting ex officio as the Board of Directors of the American Canyon Fire Protection District, a subsidiary special district of the City of American Canyon, determining disability for firefighter Joshua Cordero, a district safety employee covered by contract with the California Public Employees Retirement System.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Board Member Joseph,
Yes.
Board Member Oro,
Yes.
Board Member Washington,
Yes.
Vice Chair Abodamos,
Yes.
Chair Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, directors. Moving on in our agenda, next is Fire Chief oral report. Chief Bellier.
Thank you, Chair. I will say that last night was my first national night out in American Canyon, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the different block parties within the various parts of the city. it was a challenge to make as many as I could in the short time window, but overall was really neat. Really enjoyed that, and again, it just reemphasizes the strong community ties here in American Canyon. So really enjoyable for that. Both Assistant Chief Kaminsky and myself have been very engaged this week in chiefs interviews for firefighter candidates for American Canyon Fire District. We'll conclude those interviews tomorrow. We'll make conditional job offers, and we are still right on track for the start of a orientation firefighter academy September 19th, with those individuals being on the line and available for our part of our minimum staffing October 16th. So this is a good time here in American Canyon with bringing some new folks on and getting some of the folks that have been here for a while some additional staffing to help with some relief for them. But things are going well, and I'm happy to report we've had a very good pool of candidates in which to choose from. So very encouraging for not only the future of American Canyon, but the future of the fire service here in California with candidates like that, like we've interviewed the last several days, looking to join the fire department and the fire service. So with that, that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Well, thank you for the report. Certainly, we all look forward to the new candidates coming aboard, and certainly beefing up the staffing certainly helps a relief factor for everybody else who's having to do a lot of overtime as a result of short staff. Other comments from the board directors? Move on then to chair board comments, committee reports, followed by future agenda items. Well, I would agree with the National Night Out. I mean, you know, I managed to get from the east side, the west side, and got down to met the CERT team down at the old fire station on James Road, and it certainly concluded with a lot of families and children and just community. It's just I really enjoy this event. It's just but you know, it's kind of a short time frame, and the sun's going down and it's getting cold, so I got to hustle. But yeah, it was a great evening. Any other comments from board members?
A lot of fun.
Okay. Any future agenda items? Not hearing any. Then we have concluded our business for the evening. Thank you, directors. We are adjourned.
Take care.
American Canyon.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Meeting to order. So if we could have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and Liz, the roll call.
Commissioner Griggs?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Mammarell? Commissioner Margalotti?
Here.
Vice Chair Cervente?
Here.
Thank you. And Chair Einberger?
Here.
Chair Einberger, Commissioner Mammarell did let us know he would not be in attendance tonight. He had a conflict.
Okay. Okay, are there any public comments not on the agenda?
No, Chair.
Seeing none. Okay, agenda changes. Any changes to the order of the agenda or requests for a discussion of a consent item? Anyone? No. Okay, so the consent calendar. So approve the meetings from the minutes of our last meeting, which was on June 9th. Any discussion about the minutes or vote to approve them?
I vote to approve the minutes. I second the motion. Oh,
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay, so,
Excuse me, Chair, we'll have to do a roll call since we do
Oh,
have
that's
Vice
right.
Chair
sorry.
Cervente attending via Zoom. Thank you. Commissioner Griggs?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Margalotti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Cervente?
Aye.
Chair Einberger?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Vice Chair, may I interrupt?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that this meeting is it's being broadcast via Zoom, but I can't see anything on my end. I just see the Liz and David Parnell squares. There's no. So I'm wondering if people in the city are watching the Zoom meeting. They're not being able to see anything either.
Vice Chair, I'll go ahead and check in with our IT person. Thank you for letting us know that. We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So meanwhile, we'll go ahead and get started. The only item on the agenda tonight is this skate park relocation, and the recommendation, Parks and Community Services Commission, that we have a discussion and provide a recommendation to the City Council on the relocation of the skate park. So I guess at this point, I'll turn it over to the director.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Before you this evening, we would like to receive your recommendation on the relocation of the skate park. As you are aware, the city is currently in the process of going through a property exchange agreement, negotiations of that, and we have identified a need to really relocate the skate park to a new location to make that property exchange occur. As part of that property exchange occurring. Currently, right now, the skate park is in a temporary location behind the gymnasium and the Philip West Aquatic Center. And if you look at the staff report in front of you, it is going to be that yellow box outlined on the first page. And approximately that space is 12,900 square feet. And city has identified four potential locations, which are going to include Silver Oak Park, Veterans Memorial Park, Old Napa Junction Elementary, and a lot across from the old Napa Junction Elementary. So we're going to walk through each of those locations and talk about each site, the potential locations that we are thinking, and the pros of the location, some things to consider, and then review the staff feedback from the other departments within the city. So the first location is going to be Silver Oak Park. And as you are aware, that is an LLAD park, and it is located at 485 Silver Oak Drive, and it's right next to the elementary school. However, the park is city property, so we do have the ability to relocate that if that is a potential location. There's a parking lot. It's a visible location. It's easy to get to. It's located next to a picnic area and a playground. And the great thing about all of these locations is there most likely will not be a potential that we would need to fence in the park. Whereas right now, due to school hours, the skate park is fenced in, and it's only open during the school year outside of school hours, versus like all of our other parks, which are open from sunrise to sunset. So some things to consider about this location: it's next to a school. The school does use this park. And option B, which could be a benefit to the city, is it's going to reduce the turf footprint, which would help conserve water. And it's next to a playground, so there may be an opportunity for more vandalism with the potential of that being there. And then with both of these locations, most likely grading and a concrete pad will need to be installed. PD has provided their input. out of all 3 locations, this is a great option that the police department has identified. Public Works, the two spaces are suitable and have ample parking. And with our department, we think it's a great location. It's in addition to this park, and it will reduce the turf footprint and watering needs for that area. And then Maintenance and Utilities agrees with PD. Moving on. Yes.
I ask a question?
Yes.
It says out of all 3 locations, but there are 4 locations, so I'm not quite.
That must be a typo. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So
that's a
it is out
typo.
of 4.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to Veterans Park, which is located at 2801 Broadway Street. We have 2 potential locations here. We have option A, which is going to be off near the memorial site where we typically do Memorial Day, and then option B is going to be closer to the playground and the dog park. I realize that the outline is not fitting in that spot that I originally wanted it in, but it is going to be in that. It's going to be to the left of where it's currently at right now. It's not going to be on the middle of the walkway, just so that everybody is aware. Pros of this location: there is a parking lot and street parking, visible location, easy to get to, maximizing unused areas within this park. It's an additional park amenity, and it will not need to be fenced. Things to consider: the parking lot is small and street parking is available. Option B is next to the playground, and then it may need to be graded, and a concrete pad will need to be installed. PD is not really recommending this location due to the lack of parking and parking on a busy street. Predictions of high volume of juvenile pedestrian traffic on Amcan Road and Broadway, possibly leading to more vehicle and pedestrian accidents. Although the visibility is good at deterring crime, traffic and pedestrian safety may outweigh this. Public Works thinks this is a great alternative for the skate park. Configurations and based off of the available area, there could be potential to add more parking specified in the skate park, and maybe that could eliminate PD's concerns, but that's not part of, that would most likely need to be further discussed on what that type of element would need, how much that element would cost. Parks and Rec, great potential to add a permanent feature to this area, and it can accommodate it. Things to consider: not a lot of parking. So again, we would just need to really look into that. And then Maintenance and Utility agrees with PD. Moving on to the old Napa Junction Elementary School. This location would be a potential location if the property exchange does go through. So we have identified 2 sites. One would be option A, which is behind the school, and same as well as option B. Pros of this location: parking lot and street parking, maximizing the use of this property as an additional amenity, and will not need to be fenced in because it's already fenced. Probably will need to make grading to that surface because it is asphalt versus concrete. And then things to consider: the parking lot is fairly small. If that is going to be a potential site with multiple amenities, that may need to be considered. It's tucked in the back, so it's not visible from the street. And this may be a temporary location as well, because if there is this potential conversation down the road with City Council and getting public's opinion on what we would want to do with that site for a permanent location, this may not be that option, because we most likely would have to move it again. We would need to consider an entrance and an exit point because it is fenced in, and we would need to consider operating hours to access that site because it is going to be behind a building. Comments: PD is not recommending it due to the lack of visibility from the street, which could lead to increased crime and vandalism, limited parking, and a lot on a street not near a highly populated residential area, which could lead to heavy pedestrian traffic and a traffic congested area during commute hours. Public Works They like this location if it's going to be part of a larger community plan and not a temporary fixture. And then Parks and Rec, ideally this is not something that we would recommend as a permanent location. If we would consider moving it there, we would want it to be a temporary location, and it would be a temporary location if in fact we ever move forward with that larger conceptual plan of what that property could be for the city and for the use of that property. And then maintenance and utilities agrees with PD. And then the last piece, option that we have is the property across from Old Napa Junction. That is where that old abandoned house is currently sitting. And it's approximately 15,000 square feet, so it could easily fit a skateboard park. Pros of the location, the parking lot is right across the street. The city has plans to demolish this home and clear that property already. Great location for potential park amenity. Will not need to be fenced in. Invisible location and easily accessible for the public. Things to consider, parking lot will be shared with the Old Napa Junction Elementary School. Parking will be shared with that site across the street, which is the Old Napa Junction Elementary School. The property is located next to a church, so we may want to consider having a conversation with them. And we will need to grade and install a flat concrete surface. Just as a highlight, this property would need to be some sort of park or something that doesn't have a structure on it, because there is a fault line that runs through it. That's why we're making a recommendation. So it would need to turn into something that doesn't have an actual building on it. So a park or some other thing. PD likes this location due to the high visibility and accessible park across the street, although it's limited. Things to consider: heavy traffic during the commute hours and not in a highly populated area, may be difficult to get through to Rancho area. Public Works, this was Public Works' idea, and it's right across from the Old Napa Junction Elementary School, which is planned to program and utilize for city services if the property exchange does go through. So there will be staff over there, which will make it into a visible location. And Public Works is already planning on demolishing that home, and there are no plans for that property at this time. And it's Parks and Recs thinks this is a great location and a great use for a lot for a permanent park feature. And MUD likes this as option number 2 because of the location of the parking and agrees with PD. So overall, the physical impact for the relocation of the skate park is about $96,000. However, that does not include the construction costs of the concrete pad. That is something we would still need to determine and figure out. Right now, the total time to deconstruct and reinstall the skate park equipment is 45 days, and the lead time is 3 to 6 months. So there will be some time for us to be able to work with a contractor and get things scheduled and really be able to truly identify what that cost is going to be. So this evening, we're recommending that PCS provides a recommendation to City Council on a relocation option for the skate park. Thank you.
I just have one quick logistical question. On that property across from Napa Junction, I mean, I drove by all of them before I came here to see, and I saw that house, but then there's another property behind that. Is that privately owned?
Yes, that's the church. So we would, if we do consider that being a property to relocate the skate park, we would want to have a conversation with the church and let them know that that feature would be going there.
There's a house behind there.
So the entire square that you see, which is where the house is currently sitting on.
Right, but if you go below that, if you go all the way down where it says only buses, then there's a
Yes,
driveway.
there's a private residence there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is private. Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me, Chair. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Are members of the public able to do any public comment on this item?
Vice Chair, we'll open up public comment once we close the agenda issue. So once the commissioners are finished making their comments, then we'll open up to public comment. So yes, there will be a time to do that.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay,
Are we
so I
taking
can just
turns,
open
or-
it up, so whoever wants to start.
So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Chair. If we can actually take your questions first, and then we will open up to public comment, and then we'll open up to your feedback and recommendation.
Okay, so questions for the director then?
I have one.
Mhm.
For option 1 next to Silver Oak Park, did you ask any input from the school or the district or, you know, the principal at that school?
We have not reached out to the school regarding this being an option. The park is city property. These are two potential locations that this park amenity could go into. Silver Oak Park is actually in an LLAD here with the City of American Canyon. So as a courtesy, we could notify them, but we don't need their permission to be able to do this. We would actually want to work with the LLAD and have a conversation with them of how this city asset would be transferred over to that park and how the maintenance would go. And that would actually be a city council discussion. Because it is pretty complex. If we do decide to put this feature there, it would be a pretty complex conversation of who's going to maintain it. Does this go into the LLAD as an asset? Is this a city asset that's maintained by the LLAD? Is this a city asset that's maintained by the city? There's lots of questions that would need to be considered, and that would be done at the city council level.
Okay, because I really would like to recommend that you actually have a conversation with the principal at the at Canyon Oaks Elementary, because I feel as a community member it is really important that we give out those courtesies and that we are I understand it's city property, but it is really important you get the feedback from the school, because then we're going to repeat the same thing that went on the middle school with the current park. We have a lot of problems. I'm sure your staff, I know you're new or sort of new, but I'm sure your staff has shared with you all the issues over the years that the park has brought up to the school during school hours. So
Excuse
I
me,
feel
but
like this is really important.
yeah, I think that's a discussion item, but from what I understand right now, it's a time for questions.
Okay, well, I'll discuss it then.
Okay, so any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
For the LAD, I know you said there's a lot of things to consider. Is there any idea if it was transferred to that particular LLAD, how much the cost would be for the taxpayers? Because we're all assessed. And I know it's a big concern, maintenance. So I didn't know if there'd be any idea on that, would be a question.
I don't have an answer for you this evening regarding that question. Commissioner Memorial also had that same question, and it is pretty complex because a lot of thought goes into the maintenance within an LLAD park because of the assessments to the residents. And part of that assessment is how much use is provided to the community as a community asset versus an LLAD asset, and making sure that the percentage is split appropriately based off of the type of use and who would be using it. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you this evening regarding that, but I know if we did decide, if we made a recommendation to City Council as this being a potential location, that would be a conversation that the city would need to have with Rick Clark, who is the person that we work with all of our LLAD parks. And the City Council would have that discussion at their level and get into the details that we would need to do to make sure that we are assessing that park amenity appropriately and maintaining that amenity appropriately.
And then another question for that particular location. So the comment or things to consider is the school uses the park. do we know if they really do use it? Because they have to have, it is not school property, so they actually have to have permission to leave campus, from parents to sign that. So I didn't know if we knew how much they really used it as far as a consideration.
I don't, just from based off seeing it as going around and just realizing that the parents, just after school, I do see it heavily used by the TKers and the kinderers and in that aspect. So I know a lot of the parents that go to that school, they are using the park in that capacity. In regards to fully understanding how much the school is using that park, I can look into that, but I don't have a definite answer on that either.
And then another question on Veterans Park. It could be, not necessarily, but I know one of the considerations is the parking lot is small. Do we know how many people drive? The kids clearly aren't driving. Are most of the kids who are using the skate park walking?
Yeah,
or
that's pretty
riding their
much
skateboards to the park.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're seeing. I've been at the pool a lot this summer, and I've been noticing a lot of the use has been transportation to get to the skate park has been on foot by youth within this community, either by bike, skateboarding, or walking. And so I think in this area, based off of currently right now, even in front of Benton, there isn't a ton of parking. The closest parking lot is going to be further, down the road and near the pool. So even if they were to drive and go in, they'd still have to walk into that area. But most of the users that we're seeing, they are on foot or on bike to get there. There is, if we do decide to put it in option B, there is that parking lot, although it's limited and it would be sharing with the dog park and the playground. There is still adequate parking along the street for both locations. So we could have that being an option as well.
And then I guess my last question is about the Napa Junction property. Are there restrictions on new builds for an earthquake line and putting something in like that?
So to my understanding, if the property exchange does occur, it's an as-is exchange. So the city at this time would not be adding any additional buildings to that property. If at some point City Council wants to look at it as a blank slate, as a community asset, and solicit public's feedback, there would need to be some reconfiguration, including the baseball fields, to try to avoid having any structures on that fault line. Currently, as the building stands now, it is safe enough to use for city programs and services. It just doesn't meet school standards. So the schools have higher standards and limits when it comes to fault lines, and whereas public use is not as strict. So currently right now, that building is safe. It was reviewed by the Planning Commission and it was inspected, and we could use it for public use. We just would not be able to build on it in the future. We would want to probably avoid that and restructure that property as a different concept to avoid the fault lines.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have just one question. With option 1, Silver Oak Park, you mentioned, well, it says here will not need to fence in. But I heard you say in your report of the current skate park that it is fenced because of its proximity to the school.
Correct.
So why, this is right next to the school, why would this be different requirements?
So with the current property, the way that it sits right now, that's always been a temporary location. We currently share that property with the school district. So the way that our agreement is currently written right now is that property, the gymnasium, the location that the skate park is sitting on, and I believe it's an L shape. So there's an L shape of the piece of property, which includes the gymnasium, the aquatic center, and the skateboard park that is jointly owned by both the city and the school district. So with this property exchange, the city would keep the pool. That's our community asset. We would keep the pool, and the property exchange would include the gymnasium and the location of where the skate park is. The idea is it never really was a conducive space for a skate park. What we're noticing is even where it's located, if it wasn't fenced in, there is a lot of vandalism that goes on back there. It's not visible to the street. There's large buildings that block it. And so with this idea of this property exchange, we would move the skateboard park to a different location on city property and have it be open during park hours, like all of our other parks from sunrise to sunset. And the property exchange would include the gymnasium, that parcel that the skateboard park currently sits on, and then we would exchange it for Old Napa Junction location. So, short answer, the school would get the gymnasium and the parcel that the skate park is currently sitting on, and then the city would get the Old Napa Junction elementary school.
Okay, so I understand all of that, but basically the fencing comes down to ownership, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Like because we own the green space next to the school, we can decide to fence it or not, whereas the current skate park was required to be fenced because during school hours NVUSD owned it. Had rights to
because
operations.
It was a joint use, and to make sure that that skate park wasn't being accessed during school hours, that's why that skate park is fenced in.
So then would the school not want to do that for this location as well? Would they not want that same like blocked access so that kids can't get to it during school hours?
For Silver Oak Park?
Correct.
So with Silver Oak Park is a little different. So that is an LLAD park. The school doesn't, I mean, I'm sure that if there was a discussion and the city manager and whoever decided that they wanted to fence it in, that would be considered. But as it stands right now, with Silver Oak Park, that is city property. It's not owned by the school district. It's an LLAD property. So technically, we would not need to fence it in because it would be part of the park, which is currently open from sunrise to sunset, like all the other amenities that are currently out there, like the baseball field and the playground and the picnic reservation site. So the idea and the concept is to not have it fenced in, have it be an additional feature to that park, available to the community from sunrise to sunset at any time that they would like during those hours.
So the skate park in any location then could be used during all hours from sunrise to sunset, regardless of location. So kids that aren't in school, kids that don't go to school in our community. So there could be students in the skate park just that don't go to that school.
Right. There could be at any time, any person of this community, be it youth or adult, would be able to access any of our park amenities that are open to that community from sunrise to sunset. We unfortunately have no way of policing the youth, and we don't know if they would go to that school or not. There are members of this community that do not go to school here. They go to other schools. So we would not police it in that way. We would just want to make sure that if it is going to be in a park, because one of the biggest complaints that we get during the school year is, why isn't the skate park open? And our answer is, well, it's on school property in quotations, because it's a joint property. It's the city and the school district. It was fenced in to accommodate some decision that was made in the past. But the idea is to allow any member of this community to be able to use that feature from sunrise to sunset. And currently right now, we are getting some feedback that with it being fenced in and where it's located, it's not very accommodating to the type of use that this community would like to see.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question, and that's on Silver Oak, the A. Is that big enough? I'm not really knowing anything about skate parks and their use. It seems a lot smaller than what's there now and all the other options.
Yeah, so option A, correct? Is that the one you're referring
Yes.
to? Yes. So it is smaller. So the current footprint that it's sitting on right now is about 12,900 square feet. The drawing that I've mapped out is roughly almost 8,000 square feet. So there would need to be some reconfiguration within that area, and I don't really know. That would be something that we would want to reach out to the skateboard company who would be helping us relocate that and really understand with the type of equipment that we have, would this space be conducive to the type of experience that we're trying to provide? Because it is smaller. So that would need to be considered as well.
And this is a question that I should know, but I don't. How well used is the skate park now?
I mean, I will speak from somebody who's only been here in this community for 6 months. It's a well-loved asset. I mean, this is something that I know this community really enjoys. They want more access to it. Having it closed during school hours can be pretty challenging. We do field quite a few calls with it being closed and wondering why it's closed. Like I mentioned, not everybody goes to the schools here. Some, go to charter schools or private schools, and they don't have the same holidays. So it's would be nice to be able to have it in a location where anybody can access it anytime, not just youth, because that's another thing. Just because we just imagine that the youth would be utilizing it, well, adults use it too. And right now they're confined to this time period that may not be conducive to their days off or to the time that they're not working. So it's a lot of consideration needs to be looked into here to look at this being an asset that is used by all ages, not just children, but also adults. And the fencing in does prohibit the access that this community would like to see.
Sounds like it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I do have Commissioner Memorial's comments, if you don't mind if I read his questions really quick. Mm-hmm. So he had a question about, as an LLAD park, what is the financial impact to the surrounding neighborhood and city? I believe that we kind of answered that already. And then he also had 2 other questions for property on Old Napa Junction. Because the city has plans to demolish the old home and clear this property, are there any other uses for the property other than a skate park? Currently, right now, we have not identified any other use for this property. It really wasn't considered an option until the Public Works Director brought it to our attention. Like, wow, that would be a great use of that property. So there are no other considerations at this time. However, it doesn't mean that we can't consider something in the future. And then, is a skate park the best possible use of this property? And that's where I would look to you all as being able to answer that, because there is a fault line that does run through it. So with that, we would think with that unique character to that piece of property, we would need to consider that on what the potential and future use of that property could be. Thank you.
Chair Einberger, Vice Chair Cervente has a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, it got answered. Thank you. Are we doing public comment?
No, do you have a question?
It got answered.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So now, if there aren't any other questions, we'll move on to public comment. Are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comment at this time. Vice Chair Cervente, would Jeff like to make a public comment?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn it to him.
Sounds good. Hi, Jeff. You have 3 minutes.
Hello. Hi, team. Who wants some feedback?
Would you mind stating your name for the record, Jeff?
Yes, my name is Jeff Cervente.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
American Canyon citizen. Let me see. I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm gonna go off my head here. Let's go with the projects that stick out to me most. The dog park idea. Can you hear me? Karina's pressing some buttons here. Are you still with me?
Yes.
Okay. The dog park idea, probably not the best one, since you have a homeless shelter moving in 12 months. You'll have adults with all kinds of criminal records about 100 feet away from teenagers. Probably not the best solution. I don't like the Veterans Park, the other side by the Bocce Balls. I don't like that one. You're going to have a lot of complaints from the old folks mobile home park, Las Casitas. You're going to have complaints. You're going to have complaints, and they're going to be calling. And they're going to be calling from the screaming and the yelling and the hooting and the hollering. And that's just going to become a mess over by the Bocce Ball courts. I do like the Silver Oak idea, but I think you're going to get a big fight from the school. I do like that idea. It seems to be the safest with the least risk of vandalism and the least risk of crime and the least overall risk. I think Silver Oak's the best idea, but let me talk about the Napa Junction one. I think the Napa Junction is actually a worse idea than the dog park idea. The Napa Junction with the old house is the farthest point in the city from any residential area. And I would personally never send my kid, no matter how old he is, to the farthest point of the city to go to the skate park, which is right smack in the middle. You're 100 yards away from the main highway, and the big rig traffic is picking up steam with even more businesses moving into the Lombard area. So I think the old house there on Napa Junction is just, I think that's an awful. I don't think it's going to. If you were put it there, I see it's a feasible situation money wise. But if you put it there, I just don't think it's going to get a lot of use. A lot of parents are going to go, oh boy, no way, Tommy, you're not going all the way out to the highway to go on the skate park. I just don't think that is the best idea, because you're going to have a lot of kids on their bikes. The only way to get to that old house on Napa Junction is to use your bike. And to get to the bike, to get your bike out there, it's really dangerous with a lot of cut through traffic, down Melvin Road and Teresa. All that cut through traffic, it just that sounds like a problem waiting to happen. I like the Silver Oak idea, but I'll tell you what, can you see me, Parks Director, can you see me on your camera?
Yes.
Okay, could I show you a picture of what I think is the best one? This one is actually not on the list, but I just want to stick this out. I know I only have a couple seconds left, but this is actually only 100 yards from the original skate park. This is behind the baseball diamond at Community Park 1. There's an area where there's an old bathroom and there's a little small jungle gym or a little park there, and a little, I think there's a covering there where we had some picnics at Community Park 1. Well, there's an area by the bathroom and the jungle gym, I'll call it a jungle gym, right behind the diamond there that I think would be the best area and the cheapest cost to move the skate park.
And the city owns that.
And it's a city park. I think you should add that
Thank
one
you,
to
Jeff.
the
I'm
list.
sorry, you're out of time.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, that's all the public comment we have.
Liz, did you get an public comment from Kim McDonald?
Vice Chair, we did not.
She sent me a screenshot of her public comment. I think she sent it through an app.
Well, we can definitely double check that, and I can make it part of the minutes if we did receive it. I did check as of 3 o'clock today, and we did not have any public comment. And I received no notification before the meeting. But
Well,
we
I'm
can
just
make it
worried
part of the minutes.
Kim McDonald was one of the people that headed the rebuilding the current park, skate park. So I'm worried that you're not gonna hear what she says.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to, or do you have any other comments, Director? No?
Liz has already indicated there's no other public comments at this time.
Right. Okay, so I'd like to open it up to commissioner comments. Anyone?
Are we giving just our comments in general on each and kind of which one we think would be our personal preference? Is that how we kind of sum it up when we do our comments, or what would be the best way to do that?
Yes, I think so.
I mean, you guys can open it up for a discussion. You guys can have an open discussion and then try to come to, this evening we're not looking for a full consensus. If you even decide that there is no full consensus this evening, that's fine. Our goal is to provide some sort of direction and recommendation to City Council. They most likely will be watching this meeting, and when this agenda item comes before them, they will be able to have your feedback before making a decision.
Thank you. So would you all rather go over, excuse me, one at a time? Should we do it that way? So we'll start with Silver Oak. So comments about Silver
can
Oak,
weigh
either
in
A or B?
Okay. If I was to, anyway, I originally liked Silver Oak. I like its visibility, parking, but then again, it is closer to a lot of homes nearby. I don't know what the noise level would be for them during the day and what their thoughts would be. I think my biggest concern is it becoming an asset for the LLAD and the financial cost for those that live in that district. I don't live in that one, but I would be bothered if it was me. So I think that's a huge thing to consider. But I do like how it's central. But that would be, that's a huge concern for me there. So I think that's my big one on that particular, on Silver Oak. That's my comment.
So anything about A or B?
A's a little further away from the school. As far as, it seems more a part of the park. So maybe that would be between the two. I think that would probably be my preference if I was a teacher teaching in a classroom right there. I might prefer A.
Is it a question? We talked about that being smaller. Does it have to be that small? Does A have to be that small?
Well, we're trying to fit within the turf footprint that's currently there right now with having to do any major construction to the current pathway. As you can see, the way that that park is currently located, you walk in from the parking lot and there's a natural pathway that's already been created there. I am sure if it was considered and the city council decided that they wanted the footprint to be larger, I'm sure they could absolutely consider that. And that portion, most of these areas most likely will need to be graded and there will need to be a concrete pad that is installed. It does not mean that we need to stay within that footprint. If city council does direct staff to go beyond that footprint to accommodate it in that location, to be a larger area, I'm absolutely sure we could do that, but that would be a city council decision.
Okay. Other comments?
I have some comments. Okay, so talking about Silver Oak option, this option is not amenable as far as I'm concerned. Option A, I live in this neighborhood. I walk these pathways every single day. Option A, that's a very small, not geometrically pleasing space to be able to try and design a skate park. I'm not an architect or a skate park designer, but I imagine if you are, that you prefer a giant rectangle to a lopsided triangle. And also, those two playgrounds there, when we get significant rainfall, they both flood. So any depressed area in the skate park in that area would also flood. And then as you can see in the trees there, that's kind of like a natural wetlands area. There's lots of wildlife in there. I've seen deer, foxes. There's actually quite a large feral cat colony. So I think it's just too much in one small space, and that smaller playground that's right next to it is the little kid playground, like the 5 and under playground. The parking, fine, but other than that, I don't think A is really an option at all. As far as B goes, with this land swap, we're losing our only rentable space to have fundraisers, and this B, I have heard might be an option for a new community center gym build, which I think is a much smarter, futuristic visionary plan than the skate park, because you do have the parking and you would need to accommodate people that would be driving to an event, whereas most of the community members using the skate park are walking or biking or riding their skateboards. And I don't like that it's right next to a school and there are homes literally right there. And there is some ambient noise that comes from a skate park that if you have a small child living in the house 100 yards away, you might not want going on at 9:30 when sunset is quite late in the summertime. So I don't really like either of these options. I think also it's going to be the most complex politically. I think it's going to be the most costly, and then it's also going to cost the taxpayers additional money, and you have to negotiate with the school. So I am not for either of these options.
Thank you.
Can I just add a comment really quick? So Gina, you made a comment about the school potentially, with this property exchange, we're going to lose our only rentable space. Yes, however, we are going to be losing the gymnasium. But there is a potential, if we do get Old Napa Junction, we are going to have a multi-purpose room that could accommodate fundraisers and rentals. The one thing about this, if the property exchange doesn't happen, the relation that's going to happen with the city and the school district is kind of prioritization. We've already completed the first 20 years of our joint use agreement of the gymnasium, and now it's going to transfer over to the school district having priority versus the city. We'll still have the ability to use it, but we will now be required to go under school rules and regulations. So even if this property exchange doesn't happen, we'll have the gymnasium. The only difference is that we won't be able to serve alcohol there. We'll have to follow the school rules and regulations when it comes to facility rentals. So with the potential with the Old Napa Junction site is with the multi-purpose room is we'll be able to hold a lot of those fundraisers that this community is looking forward to and wants to continue to have, as well as open it up to community members to be able to rent for their own celebration. So we're pretty excited about that with that option, because I think it's going to meet the needs of this community, what they're still wanting to have.
So yes, you pointed out several things, that the community center gym, even if we can still use it as a rentable facility, we would not be able to serve alcohol. And I have put on a fundraiser or two in my day, and I am sorry to say alcohol is absolutely key if you want to raise money. Also, my daughter went to Napa Junction Elementary School, and I don't know if you have stepped foot in the multi-use room, but I also held several fundraisers inside that space. It accommodates about half the number of people as the community center gym and is essentially the same capacity as the Boys and Girls Club Trinchero room, except the Boys and Girls Club Trinchero room was built about 30 years later. So as someone who runs community events and holds fundraisers, I would never opt for the Napa Junction space over the Boys and Girls Club Trinchero room, knowing that the capacity is the same. So while that might be exciting to some, it is not to me.
Fair enough. Thank you.
There's a big cost difference, though. Other comments?
Yes, I do. Okay, so I'm very worried that I echo everything that has been said from my fellow commissioners. This option is not something that I would pick. It's just, without offense, you're gonna have huge liabilities with the smaller kids falling or getting hurt because it's right next to a 5 and under and a 5 to 12 children's playground. So also in option 1, where the B side, that is highly used by other community programs like Kids Love Soccer, the AYSO for the younger kids. So it's and then the fact that I have worked at the middle school for 8 years, and the skate park at that location has been a headache the 8 years, and has been a headache since it was built. If you can ask any teacher that has taught at the middle school, they will tell you the same. You will have, if you put it in Silver Oak, you will have the same problems that the middle school has had. Noise, swear words. Commissioner Griggs was a little more nicer the way she put it, but that's what it is. The kids swear and use very lively vocabulary there. And then you have the kindergarten that, if you look at the two, I worked at Canyon Oaks and was PTO president and board member for 6 years there. So I know the school very, very well. So the kindergarten classrooms are literally right next to it. And on the side is the first grade and second grade classrooms. So once the community of the school, parents, staff get know about it, you're gonna have a lot of feedback. I imagine. I do not agree with this option at all. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like either. I think B is too close to the school, and like Commissioner Cervantes said, it is used for other purposes. I went by and walked over to where A is, and it's literally right where the kids' playground and right where the picnic area. And I wouldn't want to have a picnic there with all the noise that comes out of a skate park. So I think A really isn't an option either. So it's just my 2 cents. Any other comments about Silver Oak?
Chair, I have Commissioner Memorial's comments. So for Silver Oak Park, A and B is highly recommended by PD, Public Works, Parks and Rec, and Maintenance and Utilities, whom we rely on for analysis of public safety and logistical concerns. It's close to the high school, which would increase the visibility and usage by high school students. And it's close to Canyon Oaks Elementary School, should also increase visibility and use by the elementary school students, but they may raise negative issues. He predicts a high probability of negative feedback from the Canyon Oaks Elementary neighbors regarding student safety concerns, shared use of parking lot, and a loss of park space and financial impacts. Site A has less square footage than the current skate park site, and he thinks it's best to increase the size of the skate park and not decrease its size. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to Veterans Memorial Park, opening it up for comments.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I like A as an option. I think there's a little more parking there with the lot. I don't think there's a lot by B. I think it's just street parking. I like its visibility. I like that it's central to the city. I know that the PD was concerned with more traffic as far as foot traffic or potential accidents with pedestrians, but a lot of kids are walking back and forth. There's good sidewalks and lights, and it is, as far as all of the options, to me, that would be, and also there's no LLAD. So of all the options, that would be the one that I like the best for those reasons.
Other comments?
I'll jump in. So as far as I'm concerned, for the option 2, Veterans Memorial Park, this is far and away the best of the 4 options. I really like option A. I think whoever the designer and the architect for this skate park would be would really love all of this amazing acreage to work with so we can expand the skate park. And it doesn't necessarily need to quadruple in size. So we actually can, as Director Akita mentioned, expand the parking lot, which would be beneficial for all of the amenities at this location, for bocce, for the future playground, for the dog park, for everything that is existing in this location. As Commissioner Margoletti said, there are good sidewalks. There's actually a pedestrian beacon, one of the few in our city, across Broadway at this location. And it turns this location into multi-use community outdoor space. It would have accessibility. Also, this is a big thing for this one for me, accessibility, because it is what I would consider to be the closest thing to city center and the closest in mileage and walking distance to the existing skate park of any of the options. So all of your current community members that are using the existing skate park, this would be the closest next location for them to travel to on foot or bike. And there's no school. Option A is not back up to any houses. The mobile home park is significantly across the street. And since it's sunrise to sunset, I don't see that as being an issue. And for what it's worth, when I did a small community outreach just a few hours ago, I did receive all of the community members that reached out to me were in favor of option 2. As far as 2B is concerned, it backs up right to those homes, or actually, sorry, it's across the street from those homes, and there is no parking lot, only street parking, and it's a little bit further for from the existing site and for people coming from the north to travel. So that's my 2 cents about this. I think it's also relatively flat and is a good financial option. It has the least impact, and there are pretty much, as far as I can tell, zero politics involved. So this is a great option as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Are there public comments? I mean, commissioner comments?
I have a comment. Can I comment?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So Veterans Park, my 2 cents on it is option A, right next to the Bocce Quartz, because B will be way too close to the future homeless shelter that is going right next to the dog park. It's going to be about 96, potentially 96 home. It's a 48 unit, and each unit can house two people. So it's just way too close to the park, I feel. So A will be the best. I do think there will be political backlash from the Las Casitas community, but I will let the city staff deal with that. But that will be my A, option 2A will be the best area to have it. It is flat, and I'm just glad that it's included, because Veterans Park is not finished. It hasn't been finished since it was built back in 2002, 2001, 2002. So it's about time to finish the park, at least part of it. I do recommend that a parking lot will be added. Right now with the Bocce League and folks that play Bocce, there's not enough parking. So they're parking on the red zones. And so I think building a more parking, another parking another parking lot will be very beneficial for everyone in that, and this using either for our veterans, our Memorial Day, celebration, and also for the bocce players. I think they will appreciate an extra parking lot. So definitely add more parking spots. But I do not agree with B on this location. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like B. I like A. I agree, though, that there will be some backlash from Las Casitas, and especially, excuse me, if more parking isn't put in, because I play bocce, and I know some of us park in that Las Casitas parking lot. We maybe shouldn't, but I know people at Las Casitas, so they say it's okay. But I think, that could be an issue. And yeah, so I think we'd have to put in more parking because people do go fairly fast along there. I play bocce and I go across the street, and sometimes I have to wait a while just because cars are going so fast. But I agree, I really like the location best of all. Anything else on Veterans Park?
Chair, I have Commissioner Memorial's comments.
Okay.
He had stated, seems to be the least favorable location due to traffic and parking concerns. Thank you.
Okay.
Chair Einberger, I think you bring up a good point about how cars go quickly down Broadway, and perhaps it's an opportunity for traffic calming measures as well. We could relocate the skate park there and expand the parking and put in speed humps like they have along Wetlands Edge, and then that would be beneficial to everyone that's utilizing that park and the residents in that area.
Right, a win-win. Yeah, it's a great idea. Okay.
Yes, great idea.
Yeah, so moving on to the old Napa Junction, the A and B. Comments?
I have some. I do not like how far away it is. I live in completely other opposite corner of town. I would never let my kid walk there, skate there, or whatever, if they were that age to wanting to do that. I don't think the traffic is not good. Everyone uses that as a side street, and people, and like there's more traffic all the time. Not good for the sidewalks, aren't really particularly great going that way. It's definitely not visible. I don't like that it's a potential temporary use either. I think financially that's not a good decision. And the putting that on top of a fault line area, even though there's different guidelines that can be followed because it's not a school site, I just don't think it's a smart idea. So that would not be my preference of location.
Thank you. Other comments?
Sure, I'll go ahead, Commissioner or Chair. I would not agree with either of these sites at the old Napa Junction Elementary School for the simple fact that we are potentially going to be the owners of this land with the upcoming land swap. And so it makes zero sense to me that we would put a skate park here and not have some bigger visionary plan to utilize the property in entirety. So we would either be putting in a skate park and then relocating it, or we put in the skate park and then don't do anything with the rest of the property. And there are classrooms and buildings and trees, and the terrain on this property is uneven. It's dangerous. There's tree roots. If you put the skate park here, you're going to have kids skating all over the property, and there's going to be lots of liability and injury. So it makes no sense to me that we would just put the skate park there and then what?
Yeah. Commissioner Cervante?
Hi, yeah, I echo everything that's been said about this site. I feel that the Napa Junction site sends a really bad signal by putting this park on the outskirts of the city. It goes again to, we're gonna put them the farthest, so we don't have to, if we don't see it, then it didn't happen, sort of thing. It's a bad site. This park, this area, it's supposed to be a bigger vision, and the skate park does not go along with the potential vision that I can see that the city is looking for this area. The other thing is, yesterday the city council approved the land swap, so now the district will be voting on it, and I'm sure it's gonna go through. So just wanted to put that out. I don't know if any of my fellow commissioners are aware of that. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the other commissioners. I think it's a bad idea. It's really out there, away from everything, and even though the school is out there, even the A and B are even further out there. So the visibility would be really, really poor, and I think just lead to vandalism. So, any other comments on Napa Junction? So we'll move.
I'm sorry, Chair. I
sorry.
apologize for cutting you off.
I keep forgetting. Sorry.
It's okay. I just want to make sure that Commissioner Memmerl has his voice is being heard. So for the old Napa Junction Elementary School, this location was also highly recommended by PD, Public Works, Parks and Rec, and Maintenance and Utilities. Seems like an amenity which would fit in well with expected development of the old Napa Junction site as a new city facilities and park complex, which doesn't affect future planning. Hold on, I'm sorry. I think I'm reading the wrong one. I apologize. That's for the next one. I apologize. Let me back up. Old Napa Junction Elementary School A and B, a negative factor for me is that the city's plans for this site are not yet made, which makes it a temporary location. Let's avoid creating a problem for others to solve in the future.
Good point. Okay, so moving on to 4, the property access across from Old Napa Junction. So, comments?
My comments would be the same as for the old Napa Junction. It's still bad traffic, not visible, not centrally located, and if it's on the fault line, it's also not a good idea to be building on it as far as I'm concerned. So,
okay.
Thank you, Chair. My thoughts about the property across from the old Napa Junction Elementary School is that because my daughter did attend this school for 6 years, well, 5. Thank you, COVID. And we walked right along the border of this property to get her to school every morning. My thoughts on this property is it is an absolute disaster and is going to take a lot of construction to turn into anything. It's adjacent to the Baptist school. It's adjacent to a private residence. It's on the furthest, most southern end of our city. And when they dug for the fault line in 2014, they stopped digging halfway through our front parking lot because they didn't want to tear up the entire front parking lot, and they, to my knowledge, don't actually know which direction the fault line runs from there. So it could run directly under that property. We don't know, and that's a big concern.
Thank you. Commissioner Cervante?
Yeah, so this corner property is 100 yards from 29. Right there is a big red flag. I just find it really hard for that Public Works and PD would say to put a skate park right there. And again, it sends really bad signals by putting this park on the outskirts of the city. It's just, this is a hard no for me. I would no. It will be so expensive to dig that house. That's who knows what's in there really. It just no. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. A bad location, far away from most other services and the traffic coming around that corner. There are stop signs going in both directions, but they're not always adhered to, and people fly around there sometimes. And that private residence in back, I can't imagine that they would be very excited about it. And yeah, so I would certainly not recommend that. So any other comments about any of the four?
Yes, I have clearances.
What?
So his comments, Commissioner Memrell's comments, are this location was highly recommended by PD, Public Works, Parks and Rec, and Maintenance and Utilities. Seems like an amenity which would fit in well with expected development of the old Napa Junction site as a new city facility and park complex, which doesn't affect future planning. Less probability of negative feedback from surrounding neighbors and the church, as there is less population in that area, an increase of almost 2,000 square feet from the current skate park site.
What's the timeline on developing Napa Junction? I mean, if this all goes through, which it looks like it will.
So so the idea is it's going to be swapped as is. We have no intention of building on that until there is a public process that the city council starts. But when the property, if it does get exchanged, we're going to accept it as is, and we're going to figure out if there are any cosmetic things that need to be addressed, and look at how to utilize that facility for programming and city services until the bigger concept is envisioned and that process has taken place with the public and city council. So the idea is that we would hopefully, if everything goes through, we are waiting this item. The property exchange is supposed to go to the school board on August 25th. If they accept it, there is a timeline of where escrow will be completed on August 30th, and then the property will be exchanged fairly close after that. We would like to get in there as soon as possible. Surprisingly, summer is almost done, but once summer's done, you start planning next summer and future programming and ideas, and we want to be able to get in there and assess the situation and see what cosmetic things may need to be addressed before we start offering programs and services in there. And we're hoping that if everything goes well, that we can use it as early as October, possibly November, because of the fact that the gymnasium will no longer be used in the capacity that we've used it in the past. We will need to work with the school district and rent that facility. And with their intention of expanding their after-school programs with the middle school sports, we will need to try to find time in there with the basketball programs and the badminton and the volleyball. But we really like to use these classrooms to be able to do other programs and activities.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other comments? Or do you have any other questions for us?
So I think what I would like to do right now, I received your feedback. Is there a consensus of a recommendation of what I'm hearing of the ideal location, if you were to make a decision this evening out of all four, would be the Veterans Park location A. And we have your feedback on all the other locations, but if you were to make a recommendation of where we could relocate the skate park, that would be your recommendation this evening. Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or comments that they want to make?
I just want to again emphasize how important it is that the staff has a conversation with the school, if that's going to be an option that the staff is going to pursue. It's really important that we as a commission and Parks and Rec have a really good collaboration with our partners and our schools, and that's important. I'm extremely surprised that they were not just they didn't even know. I actually talked to some of the parents in that school through text right now, and talked to the principal, and they had no idea. So they're very surprised that this is the first they heard of. So I highly recommend that you have a talk with them. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. That was a very good conversation.
I have one more question. I know that you have here the time frame to deconstruct and reinstall with the lead time. So how far out is the city from deciding which location? And then once that's decided, I guess then this timeline can start?
So the idea is that we're going to take your recommendations to City Council based off of the 4 locations that were presented to you this evening. They're going to consider all the options, take public comment. So it will be on an agenda and allow the public to come in as well and have provide their feedback to the locations if they choose to do so. I know that both the city and the school district would like to make this happen as quickly as possible. We have identified that this has always been a temporary location. We just haven't really found the best location. I believe that once a decision is made, I think we're going to work with the contractor and figure out what other additional things we need to consider, i.e. the concrete pad. That's a big question mark that we have, and what is the cost of that going to be? And that does come down to square footage and the terrain that we are looking at. So that would need to be considered and worked out with the contractor who's going to be doing that piece. And then working with the skateboard park company. As you can see, they take about 3 to 6 months to get it on the schedule. Doesn't mean that the project would be delayed. It would just mean that would give us time to work with the other contractors to get the other pieces in place. But once we get direction from City Council, I see this happening fairly quickly, as we have both identified that this is a need that we both want to see happen. So hopefully it will happen soon. I don't for sure have an exact timeline. We would need City Council to make a decision first, and then we would start that process of starting that project.
Okay, so I'll open it up for commissioner comments so that I don't forget yet again. Does Commissioner Mamrell have any comments? I bet he has at least one.
I think I covered all of his comments this evening. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I will give one that he would give if he were here, and that's Friday nights at the Plaza. This Friday from 6:30 to, I think it's 9, but his band is going to be playing, so yeah, everyone should come out. It's lots of fun, and it's out in front of West America Bank at whatever that plaza is called. So Canyon Plaza, yeah. So I'm sure he would say that if he was here. Other commissioner comments?
I have a
Are
couple.
we doing future items right now, or?
Let's do commissioner comments first.
Okay.
Just putting on my American Canyon Parks Foundation hat. We have the gala coming up at the ruins on the 10th, and I know we're looking for volunteers. So if that's something you're interested in doing, please go to the website and find the email if you don't have it. For anyone who's not able to attend and still would like to support, there will be a community online auction, so you could be looking for information about that. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any? No?
Just to remind our community, school starts August 17th, Wednesday. The whole week is minimum or short day. At least for the middle school and the high school. But that's all for comments.
Okay, with my Serapimus hat, on August 15th at the Bocce Ball court, at 11 o'clock in the morning, we're going to offer a learning to play Bocce Ball for adults 50 and older. So that should be a lot of fun. And then on September 11th, it's Grandparents' Day, so we're having a big celebration at Park 1, and we're going to have face painting and karaoke and what else? Cupcake decorating and hopefully animal balloons, and anyway, lots of things. And so we're hoping that grandparents will bring their grandchildren or their neighbors or whichever children are in their lives and important to them. So that's from 1 to 3 at Park 1. So that's what we have. Any others? Okay, so items for future consideration.
I know that we still have some that are on there. I'd want those to continue over from our minutes from our June 9th meeting, as far as report from the commissioners that attended the CPRS conference. So continuing that over. Update on how summer programming went would be good, attendance or feedback, or I know there was some different new programming or changes to programming, how that went. And then I know that our honorary commissioner is going to be off to college, so having that information go out to the high school for selection for a new honorary commissioner for the next year.
Good. Any other items?
Yeah. I also echo that we have future items from past meetings, not just the ones on the minutes on this agenda, but there's many future items that we have that not be that we haven't tackled. I also have the Melvin Quartz tennis courts. They're in horrible shape. One of the courts has weeds everywhere. I have reported this to the commission months ago, and it doesn't seem that it's being taken care of. I was in a meeting with some other organization, and I overheard a conversation of a couple of people that had gone there and play, and then my son and my husband went there to play, and they said that it was really bad. So I would really like to put this item on future items, because I think that we need to get those courts in shape. Also, there are large patches of dead grass at Veterans Park and some other parks, and I'm wondering if are we utilizing the recycled water to water the park, and how is that going? So I would like to see what's going on with with watering our parks. The patches are really large, the dead patches. So just wondering what's going on with how we're handling and tackling the drought, and what is our the staff doing to keep our parks in good shape. Also, I had many folks around our community sharing with me about the pool being closed during open swim. So I would like to, see what's going on with the pool. I've heard a lot of stuff that that's even swim classes. Some community members had to pull their kids out because they're really not. There were a lot of issues, but I would like to see what's or hear what's going on with pool staffing and not being open. So, okay. Hopefully we will get it on an agenda soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Chair Einberger, may I comment and respond to some of Vice Chair Cervantes' comments? Thank you. So we, for the Melvin tennis courts, we are aware that maintenance needs to be conducted at those courts. I'm currently working with the Maintenance and Utilities Director to get those courts in a better shape until we can get them resurfaced. We have identified that being a project for fiscal year 23-24 for resurfacing. So that has been approved by City Council as for our next 5-year CIP project budget. For the large patches of grass or any grass that appears to be brown, as you all are aware, we are in a drought right now, and we're trying to conserve water as much as possible. And in some locations that are not currently on the recycled water program, we have scaled back the watering. Our goal is to try to conserve water as much as possible, but also not kill the turf. But we're trying to be responsible because as a city entity, we're asking our businesses and residents to scale back, so we are doing the same. If you happen to see any maintenance issues around the city, we do encourage our community members to document that at the See Fix Click app. Or they are more than welcome to contact myself or any city staff member directly, either over the phone or via email or in person. We are here to assist, and we appreciate the feedback from our community members because it's additional eyes and ears on the ground, and it may be something that was overseen or overlooked, or we just aren't aware of it. So being notified is very helpful. And then regarding the pool, currently right now, Recreation Swim is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1:30 to 4, and on Saturdays from 1:30 to 5. We are currently offering swim lessons 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday in the morning and both in the evening. If a class got canceled, that was for a reason. There are multiple reasons why things get canceled, and some of them could be due to a staff person being ill or the pool not operating efficiently or effectively. As a public entity, we want to make sure that our programs are operating at their optimum and we are serving our community the best way that we can. And one of them is making sure that our facilities can do that. I'm not aware of any time that we were closed when we should have been open. If that does occur, my staff notifies me of that happening. So it is something that we want to make sure that if we say that we're open, we're going to be open. So if there is anything that you are hearing, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one quick question. Do we have confirmation on the joint PCS and City Council if it's happening on the 30th or not?
It is currently scheduled for August 30th, where that we will be reviewing, excuse me, let me take a breath. We will be presenting your draft work plan to City Council for discussion. That will be the first meeting, and then once it gets reviewed and approved by City Council, then we can move forward with actual business. That's why a lot of these things that kind of have been lingering that you want to see on the agendas haven't really been there because our work plan hasn't yet been approved by City Council.
So that'll be a 6, what time will that meeting?
It's at 6:30 and it will be Zoom. It'll be Zoom only for that meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess you answered that about catching us up with summer programming and everything. So that's all I had. Anything else? Okay, well, seems like that was a good meeting. So the meeting is adjourned at 8:06. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.